for the sake of time, what I'll say here is I think that it's incredibly important that you are targeting those pitches towards investors who fund where you're at.
If you find someone that they're working as let's say a startup, therapeutic developer, right? So they're a long ways from properly selling a product, right? But they're in the immediate gonna need to do fundraising, right? Go be pitching. And what do you wish that they would keep in mind? And maybe what do you wish that they think that they know, or maybe they do know, right? That they maybe need to leave at the door, right? And kind of move on from now that they're in a little bit of a different world.
What a great question. I think that one thing that is incredibly important for any founder is don't underestimate the power of simplicity. If you can clearly articulate your product or your service's value in just a few sentences without jargon, without having to explain, here's what this word means and here's what this word means, you're on the right track because you're starting with what an investor cares about, which is the end results, the end product, the strategic imperative behind what your product or service does. So that's really important. And then the other piece is your founding team is critical. And you don't need to bring on all full-time hires. I would argue that there are only a handful of. I actually was just having this conversation with a client. I would argue that there are very few science marketers out there who are worth their salt, and if they are, they're probably not affordable for an early stage company. But there are fractional ones out there. So even if you can't afford to partner with an agency or bring on a full-time chief marketing officer, you really don't need to. But you do need fractional advice at the executive team level and at the strategic level. Marketing isn't about making something pretty. It's about making your pitch strategic. And that's just as important to your company as the science behind it, because if you can't commercialize it, you don't have a company. So really think thoughtfully about that early executive team and bring in fractional support so that you get quality as early as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And we would 100% echo the fractional aspect, right? I mean, to keep picking on this, a novel therapeutic developer, right? You're going to only need GMP manufacturing expertise for a window, right? And then you're going to go into clinic, and a GMP, CMC process person has nothing else to do, because that's, again, we talk about depth and expertise, right? That's their thing. Clinical trial execution and oversight is not, right? They've probably never set foot at a clinical site unless they participated in a clinical trial, So there's a distinction there. So maybe last question on this topic, right? When we talk about knowing your audience and you talk in the book about aligning your message to their wavelength, right? And what they're looking for. So, and you have to understand the audience really deeply. What do you find is the, let's say prototypical wavelength of a VC that's investing in early phase? And do you think there's a significant difference whenever you're talking about angel investment? I'm going to leave friends and family out because that one's obviously intrinsically different, but angel versus someone who's, mid phase or late phase, and some of the things that they're looking for from the marketing perspective. Obviously there's some clinical data and some of the other standard technical jargon, right? But what's your thoughts on that?
Sure. So I'm also on the main venture fund, so I'll put on my venture capital hat. So I'm also often on the other side of the table.
Might have been why this question snuck into the ask.
Good research, Chris. There are a couple of different ways that I could answer this question. So, just for the sake of time, what I'll say here is I think that it's incredibly important that you are targeting those pitches towards investors who fund where you're at. If you are just coming out of a lab, you likely are not ready for your Series A. So avoiding investors who aren't going to be interested in funding you right now. Look for those pre-seed, those seeds, because then you can talk about the fact that you're in stealth mode and they'll understand why. But if you're talking about a venture, a VC that's funding at the A or B level, they're going to want to see you get to revenue a lot faster. And I see a lot of startups overpromise, and it's very transparent that either they're overpromising and they know, and in which case I don't feel a lot of trust for that founding team.
Not a good
right?
foundation.
Or they just don't know, and in which case I don't trust that founding team to execute. And so I think that it's a really about where truly are you in your company's journey, and focus your messaging and your pitch on people who will fund you at that stage. Don't jump the gun just because you got a meeting. It's just not going to be worth your time. You're wasting their time, and that's going to cut you off from future meetings with them, even if your tech is a good fit 2, 3, 4 years down the road.
Yeah. Absolutely. Some really good advice in there. So awesome. Well, Elizabeth, I've really enjoyed our chat, and I could probably talk for another 30 minutes. So, but we'll keep it to this duration. Really quick, where can folks find a Giant's Ladder? Again, I really enjoyed the read, and where can they find you and learn more about working with you if this resonates and they need the support?
Sure. So if you are an early stage founder and you're having trouble raising, don't buy my book. Send inquiries at elizabethchabe.com an email, and I'll send you a PDF copy, or somebody on my team will get back to you with one. I think it's really, I didn't write this book to make a lot of money. In fact, all proceeds from this book are donated to charity. So if you have the funding to spend on the book, great. You'll be supporting some rescue dogs in Mexico, which is awesome. You can find me on LinkedIn. That's probably my most active social channel. So feel free to connect with me there. Check out hightouchgroup.com if you are looking for help with your raise, that sort of thing. Happy to advise you. And if you have questions about the book, the contents, LinkedIn is probably the best way to contact me.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Elizabeth. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much. Have a great day, Chris.
Thanks for tuning in to Life Science Solutions, presented by Kymanox and produced by Walk West. If today's conversation with Elizabeth sparked new ideas for your organization, check out her book, The Giant's Ladder, and learn more at hightouch.group. For more insights like this, subscribe and follow Life Science Solutions wherever you get your podcast. We'll see you next time as we continue exploring what it takes to bring life science innovation to life, because patients deserve better.